Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we take a whole stack of information, really sift through it, and then hand you the most interesting insights we find.
And today, we're definitely diving deep.
We are into a topic that's, well, it's changing things fast.
Yeah.
How artificial intelligence, specifically these, powerful large language models, how they actually approach financial decisions.
Yeah, you've given us some great sources looking into this. It's a really evolving field.
Exactly. And our job here is to distill what really matters, to help you understand how these tools sort of think about money.
Which leads to the big questions, right? How do they make these choices? And maybe even more important, whose views do they actually end up representing?
It's such a critical question now, isn't it? Because AI isn't just like simple chatbots anymore.
Oh, definitely not. It's way beyond that. We're seeing it embedded really deeply in financial services, things like investment strategies, planning for retirement, even complex risk management. And the industry reports back this up. McKinsey, for instance, found in 2024 that over 60% of organizations are using generative AI pretty regularly, often in finance roles.
60%? Wow.
Yeah, and Deloitte pointed out asset managers are leaning more and more on LLMs to, optimize portfolios.
So they're not just experiments anymore. These things are actively involved in real money decisions.
Absolutely. Real-world outcomes.
But, okay, if they're that involved, what's maybe the biggest thing people still misunderstand about how they actually work, beyond just, crunching the numbers?
That's a really good point. I think the biggest misconception might be that they're, perfectly rational or infallible. Because here's a twist, and it's pretty surprising. AI can actually hallucinate.
Hallucinate, like make things up.
Exactly. A recent study, Erdem and colleagues in 2025, they found that when they asked ChatGPT 4.0 for financial research citations, it just invented false ones about 20% of the time.
20%? That's quite a lot.
It is. But get this, Gemini. It did the same thing in a staggering 76.7% of cases.
76.7. That's just, wow. Okay, so if it can just invent information, how on earth can we rely on its thinking when it comes to actual money, your money?
Well, that's the million-dollar question, isn't it? How do you even tell the difference between a real calculation and a total fabrication?
Is there any safety net built in? Or is it just hoping someone catches the mistakes later?
That's precisely why regulators like FINRA are warning about these kinds of risks, especially with AI and brokerages. It's not just about the math.
Right.
Because the research shows AI doesn't just calculate, it has these distinct, sometimes really odd decision-making patterns.
Okay.
So you'll have some studies, like LIMS in 2024, showing AI acting with, perfect rationality, always picking the best mathematical bet.
Makes sense.
But then the same AI might suddenly get really cautious. Or it might completely flip its approach if you just word the question a little differently. Binns and Schultz found that in 2023.
So it's not like this fixed logical machine. It can be swayed.
Exactly. It's not static at all.
Which is quite a twist. But how consistent are these inconsistencies? Does it sort of learn to be inconsistent, or is it just mirroring weird patterns in the human data it learned from?
That's a fascinating angle. This sort of dual nature led Horton and others back in 2023 to coin this really memorable term, homo silicus.
Homo silicus.
Yeah. It's this idea of AI strategically balancing the pure rational math with a kind of social awareness it picks up from all the human language data it's trained on.
Okay, so it's trying to be logical, but also maybe act human.
Something like that.
Yeah.
And what's really interesting here is how just framing a question can nudge the AI.
Yeah.
For example, QE's 2022 study found if you give the AI a name like, Sophia, tell me the safest plan.
You anthropomorphize it.
Exactly. That kind of framing actually made the AI give more risk-averse answers by 22%.
22% just from giving it a name. That makes you think, doesn't it? If an AI is giving you advice, is it really objective, or is it maybe sensing your anxiety in the question and pushing you towards safety?
Precisely. It means the advice isn't purely objective calculation. It can be subtly nudged by your emotional tone, or even by biases hidden deep in its training data.
So the takeaway is how you ask really matters.
Absolutely. And it affects the advice you get. And actually, Iwamoto and colleagues showed in 2025 that if you fine-tune AI specifically with human choice data, you can make it behave more like a human, especially around losses.
Okay, so given all that, how much can we really trust its impartiality? Especially for personalized advice. It feels like there's a whole personality there we're only just starting to understand.
We really are. And this leads to an even deeper question. It's not just if AI thinks like humans, but which humans does it think like?
Ah, okay. Which groups?
Yeah. Initial research, some of the stuff in your sources, showed AI responses often line up closely with people from what researchers call weird societies. It's an acronym. Western, educated, industrialized, rich, and democratic. Basically, the AI reflects the cultural biases baked into its main training data sources.
And that has real consequences.
Oh, definitely. It's not just theoretical. We've seen models, for example, completely misunderstand non-Western financial concepts, like Islamic profit-sharing agreements. Jokio and Jaffer noted that in 2024.
Wow. So it's not just general human biases, but very specific cultural viewpoints being embedded. That really highlights how much our background shapes financial thinking.
Exactly. And Chawla and others in 2025 found AI advice can really vary depending on sociodemographics. Risk assessments weren't consistent across different countries or even between genders sometimes. And if you connect that to the bigger picture, we know human financial behavior differs globally. Big international studies show cultures vary a lot in things like fear of loss, how much risk people take, delaying gratification.
All those core economic behaviors.
Right. So as AI gets more involved in your financial advice, the critical question really becomes, if the AI reflects these specific cultural views, whose financial values are actually being applied when it gives you advice?
That is a huge question, and it leads us perfectly into that specific study you mentioned by Erdem and Ashok. You said they took a unique angle.
They did. Instead of just asking, is AI human-like?
Yeah.
They tried to pinpoint which specific country's financial profiles the AI matched most closely.
Okay, interesting. How did they set that up?
Well, they took 14 standard financial decision questions. These came from a big global survey and were designed to test basically three things. How much risk you tolerate, how much you hate losses, that's loss aversion, and how you trade off rewards now versus later. Time discounting.
Got a standard behavioral economic stuff.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And they posed these questions to 7 major LLMs, different GPT versions, Gemini 2.0 Flash, DeepSeek R1, a range of top models.
And how do they make sure the comparison to humans was, solid, rigorous?
Good question. They ran each AI through the questions 100 times. Each time was stateless, meaning the AI had no memory of the last run, ensuring independent answers.
Okay.
They also set the AI's temperature. Think of it like a creativity dial to a fixed level, 0.7, so all models were compared fairly on that front. Then they took the median responses from the AIs and compared them to human response data collected from 53 different nations.
Right, a big data set. So after all that careful work, what did they find? What was the main pattern?
The main finding was pretty stark, actually. When they analyzed all the responses, the LLMs consistently grouped together. They formed this single distinct cluster that was separate from all the human national groups. It suggests that overall AI's financial personality is quite different from pretty much any human population globally.
Whoa, so distinct from everyone? Was there any overlap at all? Any surprises?
There was one, a really specific one. The only exception was Tanzania.
Tanzania?
Yes. The response pattern from the human participants in Tanzania uniquely clustered with the LLM group. They aligned together, separate from everyone else.
Okay, that is incredibly specific. Why Tanzania? Does the research offer any clues about why that country would align so closely with the AIs?
It does offer a plausible explanation. And it comes back to how these models are trained. It turns out a large number of the human workers doing the reinforcement learning and content moderation, the people essentially teaching the AI what's good or bad, are recruited in Africa.
Ah.
For example, we know from investigations that hundreds of Kenyan annotators were hired, often at very low wages, to label toxic text for OpenAI.
Right, I remember reading about that.
And Tanzania offers similar advantages for companies doing this work: strong English skills, plus Swahili for regional coverage. So the thinking is it's quite possible that the linguistic style, the phrasing, maybe even the subtle value judgments embedded by these East African annotators.
The ones providing the feedback signals that shape the AI.
Exactly. Their input might naturally make the AI's responses resemble Tanzanian discourse more closely than, say, American or Japanese discourse.
That's fascinating, like a hidden fingerprint left by the human trainers. So, okay, that explains the alignment maybe, but what about the AI's actual, reasoning abilities in these financial choices? Did the study look at that?
It did. That was another key part. When the AIs faced choices involving lotteries, probability and payoff type questions, they tended to go for the expected value,
Meaning?
meaning they acted completely risk neutral. They just calculated the average outcome and picked the highest, without the usual human caution about risk or sometimes thrill-seeking. Purely rational calculation, basically.
That fits the machine idea.
It does. However, a really critical limitation showed up when things got more complex, especially in these present bias scenarios, how you value stuff now versus later. Here, the LLMs showed a pretty clear lack of reasoning skills.
How so? What did they do?
Well, for example, some models, like GPT-03 Mini and a couple of others, calculated these things called discount factors in a way that implies they'd actually value getting $1 more in the future than getting it today.
Wait, that doesn't make sense. Everyone wants money now, right?
Yeah.
That's basic economics.
Exactly. It's economically illogical for humans. It completely violates how we think about the time value of money. Similarly, Gemini's calculation suggested it systematically overweights the future. That's something rarely seen in real human behavior and isn't really supported by evidence.
So they're getting the fundamental logic wrong in complex cases.
Pretty much. It consistently points towards a lack of robust, deep reasoning. And this ties back neatly to that Apple research on the illusion of thinking, which suggests LLMs aren't truly understanding, they're just matching patterns probabilistically based on their training.
Right. Okay, so let's bring this all together then. What does this actually mean for you, for the listener, when you're interacting with these AI financial tools? It sounds like they're incredibly powerful, but also weirdly biased in ways that aren't human.
That's really the core insight, I think. LLMs, right now anyway, seem to approach financial choices mainly through this lens of rational, probabilistic math.
Okay.
They show very little sign of the emotional stuff, the cultural filters, or the mental shortcuts, the heuristics that drive so much of our financial decision-making.
Yeah.
And this fundamental difference. That's likely why their financial behavior often seems so different from our human intuition and doesn't map neatly onto most cultural norms.
Makes sense.
Now, the study obviously has limits, right? It looked at median responses. Correlation isn't causation. We can't see the exact training data. But it definitely highlights this distinct AI approach we need to be really aware of.
This has been, well, truly eye-opening, a real deep dive. We've seen AI in finance isn't just a fancy calculator. It can hallucinate. It gets influenced by how we talk to it. And it has this unique financial personality that, weirdly, seems to have echoes of Tanzania, likely due to its training.
Yeah, all stemming from that training process.
And understanding these differences, it's not just academic, is it? It feels crucial as these tools become more common in our financial lives.
Absolutely crucial. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. If AI is giving advice based on pure probability, with this distinct personality that kind of lacks our human emotions and cultural layers, how is that going to reshape personalized financial planning? What does optimal financial decision-making even look like in a world increasingly powered by AI? It makes you think about that balance, doesn't it, between the cold, hard calculation and our own human intuition when it comes to money.